Hey guys, it's Lindsay, and I am doing a re-upload today on my open-ended shaker card. Now, I had some audio issues before. What you heard in the background was actually my Netflix, Drop Dead Diva to be exact. I watch Netflix while I craft, and I forgot to turn the volume down. I sped up this video because it is longer, and I ended up with a big jumbled mess of audio. So you couldn't tell what I was saying, very distracting. Sorry about that, but I'm getting it fixed now. So the first thing I did for this card was I used the You Mermaid from Craft and Desert Divas. It's a digital stamp, and it also has this sentiment in there that says You Mermaid to be awesome. So very cute. I went ahead and printed that off with my laser printer, die cut that with the largest scalloped rectangle die from the Fancy Frames die set, and I also die cut a frame with that same large scallop die, and then also the smaller stitched rectangle in the set. I also die cut a piece of vellum from that large stitched rectangle, scallop stitched rectangle, and then I went ahead and used the wave border die from the Outdoor Landscapes 2 die set, and on top of that wave border, I am going to need to hide some adhesive to keep my sequins in on my shaker. So I went ahead and made a mask with the leftover vellum and that wave border die, and I am using some whip spackle, texture paste, whatever you want to use, and I am just quickly putting that on there to create like a foam on top of the wave. Now this is going to allow me to hide a strip of adhesive behind that so my sequins don't fall out whenever I go to put them in later. Now I went ahead and started coloring in my little mermaid, and I'm using my alcohol markers for this. And how I picked out my colors. This is how I picked out the frame color, the colors I'm coloring in my mermaid. I knew that I wanted to use the Melon Drop sequin mix from Craft and Desert Divas. So what I did was I pulled that sequin mix out, I looked at all the colors in it, and I just started matching colors from that. I have a horrible time matching colors myself for a card, so I do this a lot of times, or I'll look at a pattern paper that I might like, and I'll pull colors from that. That just helps me out. It might help some of you as well. Now, whenever I use my laser printer to color, and then I go and color in and my hand rubs over the toner, I always lose a little bit of that darkness. So I like to go over all of my lines on my image with my micron pen. You can use whatever type of black pen you might have that's really dark and rich. I like to do this. Not only does it fill in those darken up those lines, but it also gives me a little bit of space to correct any coloring mistakes I might have had. I also went ahead and darkened up that sentiment on top so it matched the lines of the Little Mermaid girl. And now I need to mask her off to do some distressing blending. So I also printed off the same stamp, same size, on a piece of computer paper. I fussy cut it out. And now I'm just using rubber cement to adhere that right down on top of my Little Mermaid. And this is my favorite way to mask off my digital stamps. Rubber cement's very cheap. This is very easy to do. If you wanted to, you could reuse this mask. I always just print off a new one and trim it out. It doesn't take that long. And it allows me to mask off my digital images that I otherwise couldn't. So I wanted to go ahead and make this little scene here. So I am using some Mermaid Lagoon. It's the perfect color for a mermaid, to darken up right underneath her for the water. This is going to show through the vellum, and I am really going heavy-handed here because when that vellum overlays on top, it's going to mute the color a little bit. So I go pretty heavy-handed here, and I add that down, and then I use the opposite side of the mask to mask off the water, and then I'm using some peacock feathers to put a very light halo of color around the mermaid for a sky effect. Then I can peel up that mask, and if I have any residue left on the Little Mermaid, you can just use your finger to rub that away, and it will all come off. Your image isn't damaged at all from that rubber cement. But now it's going to be time to start putting the actual half shaker together. Here you can see that vellum is dry and ready to go, and that is why I did that vellum first. It needed time to dry, so while I was coloring, while I was doing this distress inking, that was sitting off to the side drying, and then when I come back, it's all dry, ready to go be put on my card. So whenever you're doing cards, think about the order you're doing them in so you don't waste any time. Now, the first thing I did was I applied very thin adhesive all the way around this frame. Then I'm going to go ahead and overlay this vellum panel right on the bottom portion. So I'm only pulling pulling up the bottom portion of that adhesive. And because this is all using the same dye, everything will fit perfectly together. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. Now once that is down, I'm going to move on to putting some adhesive strips down. Now I like to use Fun Foam with adhesive I've put on myself so I can cut it down to the right size that I need it. Plus, I don't like to cut my Fun Foam in half. I find it difficult. It sticks to my scissors. It makes me mad. So I just like to use Fun Foam, put on my own adhesive, then I can cut it to whatever size I need it. Now I am only adding one layer of Fun Foam here. If you wanted to add even extra dimension and give your sequins a little bit more room to shake, or if you want to add more sequins to it, you can always double this up and do a double layer of adhesive, and then you'll have even more room to work with. I like to stick with one though. It's just my preference. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to lay all this Fun Foam down around the outer perimeter of the frame. And all those little pieces I'm cutting off, I am saving up at the top because I'll go back and reuse those for different projects. Now, when I created that wave border, I knew I needed somewhere to hide my adhesive. So I made sure that I made it large enough to where I could fit a piece of this Fun Foam behind it. And then I just went ahead and ran that Fun Foam along there and used my scissors to trim it down to size. I made sure this was very snug because I am going to have sequins in there and I don't want them falling out any openings that it might have. So now that that's ready to go, all I need to do is fill this little shaker up with sequins. Now, I like to use my embossing bag before I put down any sequins inside. It will take care of any adhesive that might have escaped around the sides that might catch your sequins and not allow them to shake. And also, that static you sometimes get in your shaker, that embossing bag will take care of that as well. So you won't have wild sequins in there that don't shake the way they're supposed to. Now, on these types of sequins, when you have some heavier ones and some smaller ones that tend to fall out first, I like to dump them all in a bowl, and then I use my little spoon here to kind of get a real mix of them and put them in there, so I'm not left with all one kind down at the very bottom. So once I filled that up, I went ahead and I have already put double-sided adhesive on the other side of this Fun Foam, so I didn't have to worry about laying that down with sequins inside of the shaker. So I'm going to peel up that backing paper, and then because I use the same dye on all of these different layers here, I can just lay this right over the top. I line it up very easily, look straight down on top of it, and it fits over perfectly. So there's no wondering if I've got it in the right spot or anything. I know I've got it where it needs to go. But there you can see I've got that little shaker on the bottom, and it looks like she's got little fish floating around her, which I love. I laid this panel on top of an A2 card base, and I really decided that I wanted it to be the star of the show. So I used that same scallop rectangle die with an A2 card base. I let the top of it hang off, so I did a little bit of partial die cutting. I'm going to adhere this straight on top of that card base, so the entire shaker panel is the actual card. So now I don't have any layer behind this distracting from all the work that went into this card panel. Now I went ahead and used the Seed and Builders die set, and I cut out some clouds from white cardstock, popped those up with some of that extra Fun Foam I had, and I'm adding a layer of Wink and Stella for some extra shine right on top of those. And that finishes off my card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and sorry about the audio issues beforehand. Hopefully they're corrected now, and you guys can enjoy this video without some Drop Dead Diva in the background. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I'll leave you with a few pictures of this finished card. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog. That link will be in the description box below. Thank you again, guys, for sticking with me today. Happy crafting!